Alright, hello there, we're back again. It's finally warm enough to be in the garage without bundling up and doing everything. So I'm going to try to take advantage. I got a personal note. I've got a colonoscopy to prepare for tomorrow, so I'm going to be fasting, cranky and irritable later, so I figured now I'll do what I can. So here we go. This is what we have so far. We've got the drawer all fitted and ready to go. So now we want to get the shelf, and I don't know if you can read that. It just along here just says top, and I'm not too worried about that because I'm going to put a layer of leather on top of it. So that way ink bottles will land on there, not the wood itself, which is why I'm using, I've got this nice mahogany piece of maple here. There'll be more maple for the top, but this, cheap piece of pine is never going to be seen. And that's going to go, if you notice, I also have it set up here. That's the right side. When I'm looking at it, that's the left side. So I know exactly where it's going to go, and it fits, with a little bit of wiggle room. And I've made it as square as I possibly can, but more importantly, I made it so that way it matches the corners. And if if I'm a little bit out of square on one of the corners, I know this piece is still going to fit. You'll notice the chamfers along the outside. That just makes it easier, so that way when I place it in here, it kind of falls into place. And I would let it go, but it'll start dropping and get in there. So now the problem becomes, well, how does it stay in place? It's just going to fall on top of the drawer. We need, just above, let's see here if we can get that angled, just above the line of the drawer sides and the back, we need kind of a cleat to hold that up. That will not block the drawer from going in and out. And that's what these pieces are. And everything I have is going to be referenced off the bottom of, get rid of the drawer for now. Got to be referenced off the bottom of the inside. So I got to come up with a way to make sure that these pieces they're going to be referenced off the bottom. So these, I had to take the time and make sure that they're all the same. Hold on, let's see if I can get them all lined up. All the same thickness. So when I put them down, they're all the same thickness. And again, they are labeled specifically. If you can't see it, that says back, that says front, and I know that that's the side that goes against the front of the thing and of the carcass of the case. So now how do I get them all at the same height that's above here and allows the drawer to go in and out? Well, that's where these pieces come in. These are just 4 spacers that are, they're not specifically says they're all the same length, so that way when I'm looking at them here, that is just a little bit higher than the side of the drawer. So these cleats will be up in the corners. You'll see it in a second when I put them in. These pieces will all sit on top, giving me just a little bit of clearance. It'll be hidden from the front, so you won't be able to see it. And then when the drawer slips in, that's plenty thick enough to catch all 4 sides. And the drawer will just sit there with gravity. It will not be glued or nailed into place at all. It's just going to use gravity to my advantage. So with these pieces, what I'm going to do is put them in the corners, in a very specific pattern, so that way, they're not much thicker than this piece. But what I want to do is make sure that when it's in the corner, it's orientated like that, so that way this piece will sit here, like that, for example, and then the respective short-sided piece will sit right there on the same one next to it. So I'm not going to glue these into place. I'm sure you can imagine what they look like. Now came the problem on the front that I don't have a corner to put them into. So these are all the different things that had to get worked out before I started up the gluing process, and I'll show you the next problem we had in a moment. These come in very, very handy. So we're just going to clamp, I don't want my fat head in the way, clamp that in there, clamp this one over here. Doesn't have to be perfectly in the corner. What I do want it to be though is perfectly, perfectly flat sitting down. Get those angled better. And that will go there. Okay, so I'm going to take the two back ones out because they're just going to fall. But right now, if you can see on the inside, they're laying there. So that way, when I put like the front piece in, that'll go sit right on top of them. That piece will be, the cleats will be glued in. So now, okay, glue pieces, the cleat pieces get glued in. Great, wonderful. How do I hold it? Oops, I put them in the wrong way. How do I hold them there and clamp them so that way they make contact? In order for glue to work, it sounds simple, but it's a reality. You got to have the two pieces, for two pieces to get clamped up properly or glued up properly, you got to have contact. So if I just kind of glued them and left it like that, it's not going to come out. But if I squeeze them, in a couple hours, I'll have great contact. So right now, I'm just going to put everything in there so that way we can all see it. All right. So right now, it should hold. That's how it's going to look when it's all done. And chances are glue would hold, but we've came up with a system. I've got these two pieces. They're not the exact same length, but they're close. And when I put them, I've got these pieces, and if you notice when I put them in here, they're not quite long enough. But then I've got a wedge. So just to give you a glimpse, I'm going to have to tap that down a little bit, but just so you can see what's going on, this cross piece is just a little bit shorter than the length between those two cleats, and the wedge will now push them up against the sides. This does mean I'm going to have to glue it up in two sections, so you will not see that part, but you'll get the basic idea of how it works. So let's make sure everything is ready and there. And I for my own personal safety, I'm going to turn that around because I have everything referenced front, back, left, right, and albeit I want you guys to be able to see what I'm doing, I want to make sure I'm getting it right, and I'm going to have it oriented so that way I can see how it's going to go. And as a matter of fact, I'm actually going to even put the pieces where I want them and in the orientation that I want them. And again, no one's ever going to see these pieces once the piece is finished, but I took the time to make sure that the tops were all clean, like the back has got writing on it, the bottom has got writing on it. I'm not too worried about it because, like I said, no one is ever going to see that, especially once it's glued up. But as a craftsperson, it just makes me feel better that I took the time to do that. So much so, like, I took the arris off these corners. Again, no one's ever going to come in contact with it or hit it, but as somebody who takes pride in their work, it just makes me feel better that that's the case. I'm going to use a little bit of glue. I'm going to lay everything in there. I'm going to do the front and back ones first, the longer pieces, just because I think that, to me, that makes a little bit more sense. And you'll notice that I will put these in there more to just help space them and keep them in the right locations, and everything. So let's, without further ado, let's make that happen. So I'm going to take a very, and this is not going to hold a lot of weight, so I don't really need a whole lot. I'm not overly worried about it. So I'm going to use a very light layer of glue that I think is going to end up being too much, and the best glue spreader in the world, I've got 10 of them. Just going to evenly coat that all along. The excess goes under the bench. You should see the underneath of the bench. It looks like a schoolyard, or not a schoolroom desk that has all the chewing gum and everything underneath there. And I found that when I was practicing with this, I want to get it close to the bottom first before putting it, because I don't want the glue to scrape on the sides. I am going to want to clean that up. All right, so that piece is where it's going to go. This is the back. I'm even going to try to put even a little less glue on here. I don't want to be stingy with it. But it costs money, just like everything else. All right. I got a little glove there. What I'm doing now, as I'm looking at this, I'm making sure that every piece of the wood is covered. Again, not going to take a whole lot of weight. It's not a structural thing. It's very, very tiny. But the more coverage there is, just the better off, and it's a good practice to get into. And again, I'm gonna get that as close to the spot I can before I bring it up against the back wall, because I don't want to have to, clean up glue when the time comes. All right, good. I'm just gonna put this in as a spacer, and I'm going to put that in as a spacer. Goes, and I made those pretty tight. When I was doing the drawer, if you remember, I made the corners for the slips on the bottom, and I purposely left a little bit of gap, thinking, no, it's gonna be covered by the bottom. I don't have to worry about that, not realizing it was gonna be seen. So that's one of those things that's probably gonna bother me for a long time with that. And when I did this, I was a lot tighter on my tolerances. So now take my wedge, and I'm going to take a steel hammer, just kind of knock that into place. Same thing here. Get my tapered side. Good. You know what? That's a little bit farther down than I wanted it, so I'm just going to take my extender piece. All right. So pretty much that's what we have now, and it's hard. I can see quite clearly. I've got glue beading up on the top, and I'm sure they're on the bottom as well. And that's a good sign. That means that there's no air in there. There's no gaps. What I will do, just to make sure, I'm going to put my sacrificial piece right on top of that corner, and just give it a little tap. Make sure it's fully seated, that I'm not floating above it a little bit. I'm gonna tap the wedge in, tap this one in. All right, so now those inside pieces, because I don't have clamps that'll reach down. I mean, I might have one that can fit in here and clamp from this side, but I definitely don't have one that'll reach the back. So I figured that was the best way I can do it. I'm going to have to wait for this glue to dry before gluing in the two side pieces. I'm going to do that off camera, because it's really no different, except for the fact that I'm only using one bar. I found that was plenty, but I'm going to use just one bar in the middle as opposed to the two on the sides, because of how narrow it is. And quite frankly, if the front and back are in there nice and solid, once this piece goes in, it's not going to matter one way or the other. That there's four in there, not two. I could go with two on the two opposite sides, and it would still work just as well. But then again, personal pride, this is something that's going to sit on my desk. I'm going to see it pretty much every single night. I want to know that I did my best work on it. Once this is in there, then comes making the top. And what I have coming up with that is there's going to be a frame and panel construction that's going to be, think of a door where you have the four, the top two of the sides. They're going to be, a nice square panel, and then, or a nice square frame, and inside there's going to be a panel with the same maple that this is made out of. And as many of you who have been following me know, my my father passed away a couple of months ago. And excuse me, but he had a whole assortment of different types of wood on there, and he's told me for years since I started. He's like, if you ever need anything, just come through my wood pile. I'm never going to go through all of this stuff. I'm just going to move that up. He keeps telling me, you would tell me all the time, I'm not going to use all of what I have in the basement. Go down and help yourself. Well, one of the pieces he was really proud of was this. This is ebony. Like this is, it's hard for me to hold because it is that heavy. And years ago, I don't know how he came about it, but he had taken this piece and cut it off, and he made for a number of years, we had gone to the local U.S. Opens, the golf tournament, not the tennis one. Shinnecock, Beth Page. We were up at Winged Foot. We went to all of those together. And when you're there, you buy the souvenirs, and we would buy the little ball markers that you'd put on the greens. And for a birthday, Christmas, whatever it was, he made two. They were just cubes made out of mahogany. So when it doesn't look very pretty now, but when you clean this up, it's a very, like a jet black, and it just looks really cool. And he routed out these just large enough to hold these. So these 6-sided cubes has one ball marker from the different different tournaments that we had gone to over the years. So I have that. I have that inside. So part of me, I figured that this project has taken me a long time because I was very much distracted when he was sick, and so I didn't work on it nearly as much as I would have liked. So what I'm going to think about doing is, and I mean, this is much bigger than what I need, but I am going to somehow incorporate this as contrast into the top. And I'm thinking just like a button or something right in the middle. Just to remind me of Dad. All right, so that's gonna glue up. I'll get that all done, and then I think the next step is working on the top, and I will see you at that point. Bye bye.